Hello, I'm Lela Witherspoon, and this is my final presentation for Studio One. To save time, I'm just going to read the second paragraph. In this work, I witness my inner struggle as I attempt to live with these difficult thoughts. The work is also a solace. It is comforting to express how much I mourn her. Within the work, I see her as an inner light, ever present and powerful, illuminating everything she touches. I am the darkness, the storm, the area desperate for that light. The tension between the light and dark elements within my work are the areas where she and I still talk, and I tell her that I miss her. So moving through this first one kind of quickly, we've already gone through it. This is what I felt most resolved about starting, and that's why I started there. And through critique, you guys helped it evolve, and I really, really love the critiques you gave, so thank you for your help with that. So this is, my father always told me everything changes. And for me starting class, my goal was light informing what was going on, light being realistic, but also otherworldly. And this piece was really where I kind of figured it out, and it really informs everything going on. And then moving on to project 2, this was right after midterms, and midterms messed me up mentally, and I spent just a ton of time sketching. And so this was gone. This was like, the drawing on the right here was just too placid. It was too similar. I wanted something more dramatic. And so it became this lightning bolt kind of striking through me. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what to do with the background, because the lightning bolt was, I was fairly confident on, and the rest of it was like, what am I doing? And so as I struggled to figure out what to do with the background, I spent some time writing down some thoughts. And I wrote down, they are the aftershocks, the rippling resonance of destruction, grief made of sound and flesh. So this became Grief Made of Sound and Flesh. And it really, what I wrote down really informed the choices I made. Like, for example, the red lines in here are because of trying to create a sense of sound, of a rip echoing through it. Some detail to show you those red lines. The lamp was verging on decor, and so I let that go. But I still did want to play with light this quarter, and I wanted to experiment. And so this was sitting in it, version 1. This is about like 10 sheets of transparencies. You saw this and critiqued it, and from there I played with it. I do want to say I'm really not resolved about how this works as an artwork on a wall, as a piece in that sense. The blue light here is the white setting on the LEDs that I made this light box frame out of. And like, I don't like how it looks with the light off, and it just reads really meh in this sense, but I like the final form on the light box. So I owe a big shout out to Jess for working with that layer of vellum on top of her pastel. And as I was messing around with this piece, the transparencies come with a layer of tissue paper between them. And so I've got all this like trashy tissue paper I've been, moving around as I pull out these sheets of plastic. And I just was like, oh, this is like, I've been thinking about like, how can I obstruct light, but also control it? And so I started ripping holes, and that's how we kind of created this layered effect that comes through it. So why a lamp was initially a thing was just because I like the idea of like shadows coming outward, creating a space, having those kind of almost like a projection, an outward trajectory to it, and like affecting the area around it. And so I found the most like neutral lamps I could, that they would not be the focal point. The art would be the focal point. And I drew out this idea of this flow and this also like kind of uncomfortable move through it. And this first version, don't care for. It was too graphic and simple. And so I did create another layer to it. And what I'm not happy about this is that it doesn't generally project outward. So this is not successful in that sense, and I'm the least resolved about this. So this is Caught in the Tide. And going forward, if I was going to continue to play with this, I would completely rethink and try and figure out how to project those shadows outward onto the wall and really manifest that. But this was just an experiment. Going into this piece, I just want to say I do still really want to play with the idea of time. And I love that came from critique, and I just haven't manifested it in my head yet. So I had thought of this piece pretty continuously since midterms, but I hadn't really figured out how to resolve it. And then I kind of just gave up making it something bigger or grander. I just needed to get it out again in this way of the storm, and like the epiphany I had about I am the storm. And so just really quick, There's the quilt that informed what I drew, and this is an explanation as to why. So this one is How Do I Leave Her? It's the hardest to talk about. But one of the things I really like about it is it feels very collaborative in a sense. This was based on a quilt my mother made me. And the colors are really close to it, and it felt like in that moment like I was working with her. And it's a piece I'm really proud of. For this last piece, I was going to do this landscape, which I'll explain, but I was really worried about this very horizontal composition being very bland. And so I spent some time thinking about it, and I ended up coming up with this idea of a diagonal with the light, which you'll see as I manifest, and I think that really helps it compositionally. This is Mount Tamalpais. It is a fairly famous mountain in Northern California, and this is how I could see it from my home in Napa as I was growing up. It's known as the Sleeping Lady, and it's very internalized in me in this view. And so just thinking about my mother kind of as the monolith, as that big figure, incorporating her into the mountain. I messed up this piece pretty royally. This version of it right here above me is gone. And as I was trying to wipe something away, I destroyed the underlayer. It got very textured and it just wouldn't dry. And so I started again from scratch. I went with a blue ground, which is a very big departure from my usual orange ground, which is used to kind of try and enhance the glow within my work. And so this is All That I Am, I'll Lay at Her Feet, or Tamalpais is Gone. I cannot choose between the two titles, so they are both the title. And there is a tiny version of me because I've been physically present in all of these pieces, and I think it kind of adds to the scale and the idea of witnessing this moment. And then also just pointing out that diagonal light kind of cutting through it to kind of break up that very horizontal composition. A little bit of details and a slightly better view of tiny me. And so a nod to the research in the book I read, that one of the ways that grief and creativity can go hand in hand is that you can essentially rewrite your view of the traumatic things in your life, as long as they aren't too terrible. That there is a sense of where I've taken this bad memory and I've transmuted it into something that is shareable and beautiful, and it kind of externalizes it and rewrites it. And so that was one of the great things I learned from the research. So just a final conclusion, I'm really proud of how much I managed to manifest this idea of light as being the central focus of my work. And I think it works, and I hope to kind of continue it going forward. This class did a really great job of tearing down my preconceptions and ideas that these tools that I have are actually quite limiting. And going forward, I really hope to examine them and be aware of them and kind of discard them as much as I can, and that I want to play with loosening up my movement some more. I want to experiment with time, and I want to experiment with cast shadows are kind of the big things I want to take going forward. So thank you so much.